Hi everybody, welcome to Tech Children Academy. In this video, we are going to be talking about the CSS float property. The float property specifies how an element should float within its container. Let's move to the next one. So we have understanding the float property. It places an element on the right or left side of its container, allowing text and inline elements to wrap around it. The image inside this div is floated to the right. That is this image. If you can make the screen smaller, you will see the text wrap around it. Let's move to the next one. We have the CSS float property. The float property is used for positioning and formatting content. That is, let an image float to the left to the text in a container. Then the next one is this property can have one of the following values, either left, right, none, or inherit. That is, you want the content to float to the left, you want the content to float to the right. The default, that is, the element does not float and is displayed just where it ought to be. That is where it occurs in the next. Then inherit. This element inherits the float value of its parent. Tips. The float property is often used to wrap the text around. Let's see the next one. Then the next one, we have float right. Now let's create an example around this one. We have float right. That is, the CSS float right value indicates that an element should float to the right within its container. The following example specifies that this image should float to the right. Let's create our own example. We'll come here. And the first thing we are going to do is we are going to have H2. We just want to say CSS over float, which is right. Then the next thing we're going to have is in this example, okay, let's go with this. It's already used. Now we'll come here, we would have a div, and inside this div, we're going to have image. Inside this image, we'll call it orange dot slash orange dot jpg. You can have an alternative, which will be orange as well. We'll give it orange, class orange. We'll give it width of equals to, we'll give it width of 300 pixel, and we'll also give it height of 300 pixel as well. Then we'll come here, please. We're going to do Lorem. Alt Shift F. Good. Then we can have more again. We can say Lorem Alt Shift F. Lorem Alt Shift F. Yes. So this should work. This should give us what we want. Now that is this. Then let's come to our style. We'll come here. What did we name it? We named the image orange, Abby. We'll come here. We'll say dot orange. Then what we want it to do is to float to the right. We'll give it margin left of 15 pixel. Then we are going to give it width of 200 pixel, width of 200 pixel. Then we're also going to give it height of 200 pixel. That is that. Now let's check what we have. Can you see our image is flowing to the right of it already? Do you understand that? Now let's move to the next one. Let's do left instead of right. We'll just come here. We'll change this to right. Oh, we did the right just now. Now we are doing left. And we are giving it margin right this time around. So we're not giving it margin left. We give it margin right this time around. So we are doing the opposite of it. Now let's see what we have. As you can see, the image is already at the left now. Then that is that for that. So let's move to the next one. That is moving left and right. We've done left, we've done right. Then the next one is float none. The CSS float none value is the default value for floats, and the element is displayed just where it occurs in the container. In the following example, the image will be displayed just where it ought to be naturally. So now let's remove this float. Let's remove this. Let's just comment this one out and let's see what we have. So naturally, the image is supposed to be on top of this. Then this falls on the next line. That is just natural how it's supposed to be. That is for float none. Let's move to the next one. We have the CSS floats next to each other. HTML div elements are block level elements and will start on a new line and take up the full width available. However, if we use float, left will make the div elements to float next to each other. So we can have two div, float left, give it background color, and the next div is yellow, div is orange. So all of them will float left. Let's make our example. So in this place, we can have our example back. So we would come here after this div. We would say h2, that is floats next to each other to each other. Then the next one would have a p tag, which will say, in this example, the three divs will float next to each other. Then the next thing, we're going to have a div inside this class. We'll give it div1, div2, div3. Very perfect. Then we'll come here, we'll style it. We'll say div1 dot div1. Inside div1, we want to give it a background color of red. Then we'll have div2. We'll give it a background color of green. We can give it green. Background color of blue. Then that is that for that. Then we'll style the old div first. Inside the div, what we want is, so the div is the one holding all of them. We want to give it div, then we'll say float left. Then we'll let's give it padding of 10 pixel or 15 pixel. Let's give it 50 pixel. That is that. So now let's check. So all of this is for them to float next to each other. Let's see our example. Hey, what happened? Is it that our colors are not correct? What's wrong? Dot. Okay, we didn't give this a dot. Dot. That was a mistake. Dot. Now we should have our better result now. So all of them, background color green. What's the issue? So it should give us now. Now we have our distance. So all of them, they are floating next to each other. So that is how floating next to each other works. Do you understand? Oh, our yellow. Something has happened here, but no problem. So that is how they float next to each other. Let's move to the next one. Let's remove the div. So it's making all of them float next to each other. We should have a hair now. Good. So this is how it's supposed to work. Yes. I hope you understand everything we just talked about in floats, CSS floats. Thank you for watching this video. Please do well to follow us across all socials at Tech Academy. See you next time. Bye.